Hello, YouTube. So I had all kinds of grand ambitions today of doing a video on AnCnoc and basically why Speyside is underrated in certain respects. And I was going to throw some Auchentoshan in there to sort of preface it because I think there's an interesting relationship between these two distilleries and their styles. But last night I ended up doing taxes instead, so I didn't have time to do my prep work. So what I'm doing is just splitting the Auchentoshan part out into its own thing. So I've broken out my little tasting set, and we're going to taste through the current range. So first I should say I don't have notes for this. I usually have notes right here, and today I don't, so I'm going to be improvising everything here. But I was excited to kind of get this little kit. So this is the American Oak, the 12-year-old, and the 3-wood current series. Because I haven't tasted through the official bottlings of Auchentoshan in quite a while. When I buy Auchentoshan, it is almost always, in the last couple of years, it's always been independent bottlings. Nevertheless, Auchentoshan, in a way, is one of my favorite distilleries in Scotland. It is kind of a great distillery by being a not great distillery. Let me unpack that. So, for example, maybe 2 years ago, I did a tasting for some friends, and there was an Auchentoshan in there. It was independent bottling, I think from Rattray, 20 odd years old, something like that, and it was not the winner on points at all. But what it did is it came first, and it absolutely set up everyone else's palates perfectly for the better malts to come. And like I destroyed that bottle really quickly. It was just so sessionable. It was just something like when I just wanted to have something to sit back and relax with. I went straight for that bottle of Auchentoshan, and I absolutely demolished it. And I think that's where, people, one of the reasons why people should be interested in this distillery is it's just so, there's lots of distilleries which have more complexity, a more magisterial distillate, Lagavulin, Glendronach, say. You can name off distilleries that are objectively better than Auchentoshan, but, do you really want to drink Lagavulin all the time? Like, really? Do you think your palate could take that? Because mine couldn't. But, for something to sort of fill in the cracks between the greats, God, Auchentoshan is good at that. It's also interesting in that it's, so far as I know, the only distillery left in Scotland that is triple distilling all the time. It is not the only one that triple distills, of course. You will see that at Springbank in their Hazelburn series. You'll see it also. Benronach does some of that, and I think Ben Riach also does some triple distillation. But Auchentoshan is the one that does it all the time, which makes it's more of a, people associate it more with Ireland, and they do it more over there, but don't think that all Irish whiskey is triple distilled. It's not. Anyways, and so this gives Auchentoshan a very unique, special, spirity character. It just doesn't come across like other malts do, at least other Scotch malts. But it also doesn't come across like anything from Ireland. It's a little bit of one of a kind, and just for that reason, I really think it's worth exploring. It's also just so damn drinkable. All right, let's. But I have avoided this range for a while because of the dreaded 40% bottling strength kiss of death on everything in here except for the triple wood, which we'll get to. So it's American Oak, 12-year-old triple wood. Two of these non-age statements. A couple of years ago, Auchentoshan had something called the Valinch, which was also non-age statemented, but was basically, bottled, I don't even remember, really strong, in the 50s, high 50s. And it was terrific because Auchentoshan shows very, very well when you give it strength to work with. When you bottle at lower strengths, it kind of loses some of its steam. Nevertheless, I got this little kit, and we're We're going to taste through it because I like Auchentoshan. Oh, wait. First, I'm going to add some water to these. Just a drop. That's it. Well, okay, I'll give 2 to the triple wood because that is bottled at 43, but the others are bottled at 40, and any more than a drop of water would murder them. All right, so let's briefly go through these 3. American oak. I don't believe there's any virgin oak in here. I think it's all ex-bourbon cask, and in fact, I think it says so on the box. Yeah, all first fill bourbon oak. The 12-year-old is also going to be mostly bourbon oak, but they are apparently throwing in some Oloroso sherry casks. And 3 wood is bourbon, Oloroso sherry casks, and Pedro Jimenez sherry casks. Now that is an alarm moment. I am not as wary about Pedro Jimenez as I am about port and red wine casks, but you have to watch out for Pedro Jimenez. It can be very sweet and raisiny, and sometimes has a nice dirty character, but a lot of Pedro Jimenez casks can just go wrong. So that's one that I kind of watch out for. Nevertheless, carry on. Let's give these a shot. All right, so start with the American oak. Actually, I'm going to drink some water first. Oh, I can smell these from here, and it's nice. These are very aromatic. Yeah, so on the nose of this American oak, so first of all, it's a little bit, how do I put this? It's very aromatic, but at the same time subdued. I can tell it's a little bit muted due to the strength. But it's nice. It's I'm getting a lot of oaky, sort of raw oaky notes. There's some sawdust in there. I'm getting a little wood shop interior. Some raw ginger. A lot of vanilla, crushed vanilla beans, that kind of thing. But then you've got the Auchentoshan spirit kind of speaking up. Auchentoshan has this kind of bubble gummy it's sort of fresh mowed grass thing. So if you could imagine making bubble gum out of like fresh mown grass, that's kind of the character you're getting. A little bit of a pineapple shell note going on in here too. Slightly floral, but more grassy than floral. It's a lovely nose. It's a simple nose. There might be a little bit of creme brulee in there and some like sliced green apples. Scratch that. More than a little creme brulee, which I'm okay with. And there's certainly some tea in there. There's some stewed English breakfast tea. It's a fun nose. What I'm worried about is the palate. And there's the problem with 40% whiskeys. Let me back up. So, the kiss of death of bottling something at 40% falls heavier on some spirits than others. Ardbeg, right? I mean, you bottle Ardbeg at 40%, it's not going to do it any favors, but it can kind of still show well. Auchentoshan at 40% is just like delicate spirits at 40% just get crushed. They just fall apart in your mouth. And this is kind of, it comes across as thin, and that makes it come across as bitter, especially on the back end. Kind of falls on from the nose. Lots of creme brulee, a little sawdust, little white pepper in there. Lots of vanilla bean, sort of scattered on top of your creme brulee. The tea notes, there's some bitter wood tannins at the end of this. I wouldn't be surprised if this was re-racked right before it was bottled. There's a lot going on of woodiness going on the finish in the front of my mouth. But then you got this kind of a nice, what is that? Again, the grassy, bubblegummy kinds of notes. I mean, I love the character of this spirit. It's just, well, first of all, it is a if you want to drink a malt during the summer, get some Auchentoshan. Do get an independent bottling, or if you can hunt down any bottles of Valinch, the old stuff, get those. Yeah, kind of the black pepper thing and the wood tannins on the front. They're fine, but the strength is just making them come across as more bitter than they actually are. More bitter and sort of unbalanced than they actually are. And a little gala apple in there now. Very desserty. It's refreshing. It's sort of grassy and nice, but it's simple. And the strength is just making it disintegrate on my palate. Man, I mean, I appreciate the 43% on the 3 wood, but this at, even 45, 46 would be so much better than it is right now. Let me give this one more shot. How to judge this? I mean, objectively, I'm giving this like a 77, let's say. Yeah, let's stick with that. It's there's not a whole lot going on here, and what is going on is a little thrown off balance by the presentation. But that doesn't mean this is not very extremely quaffable. So if you can get this at a reasonable price and you want to sort of throw it in as something to open the night with, that's not wrong. You can do that. I would support that decision. All right, moving on. All right, but let's say score-wise still 77. All right, moving on to the 12-year-old. Again, so this has a little bit of Oloroso on it apparently, and this one actually has an age statement, which is great. Still 40%, but we'll carry on. Quite okay. So the basic notes on the nose are very similar. I am not getting a whole lot of sherry on this. It is more subdued though. This is, wait a minute, let me check that. Yeah, the American oak is more aromatic, at least to me, than the 12-year-old. There's a little bit of a more of a what is that? Okay, so I'm getting a little bit of the grassy bubblegumminess. A little bit of the sawdusty thing. Less active oak though. There's a little bit of just kind of an ashy, not leafy, more just sort of like hardwood ash kind of nose to this. Like almost if you started with creme brulee and then you started toasting and you just went way too far and you just ended up with like a nice plate of like sugary ash. That's kind of what this smells like. Yeah, burned custard. A little apple in there now that I'm swirling it. Like cider apple now. A little bit of a more of sour bitter apple. And certainly some ground pepper as well. But aromatically, not a whole lot going on. The first glass had more of a lighthearted, lively character to it on the nose. On the palate, oh, okay. Oh, that's not bad. That's not my favorite, but okay. So much bigger, much more peppery, more wood tannins. So the wood tannin thing that this is doing way more of that. This is, again, creme brulee, ash, all the time, mixed with vanilla bean, mixed with just black pepper, mixed with that grassy bubblegummy thing. The spirit is still coming through on this. But, I mean, the thinness is still especially making it fall apart a little bit. especially on the finish. It just comes across as a little bit unbalanced and bitter. And it doesn't, This is tricky. There's a tea aspect on this too. This was more Earl Grey. This comes across as more like a Russian caravan kind of. The 12-year-old comes across more Russian caravan. There's some oolong in there, along with the black tea, and there's some Lapsang Souchong going in there. Definitely some smoky aspects to this. Not peat. There's no peat in this whatsoever that I can detect, but certainly, some burned, ashy, smoky characteristics. It's better made. There's more going on. It is still crippled by the strength, and I still don't like it that much. Or put it this way, I don't even like drinking this more than I like drinking the American Oak. Hang on, let me double check that. Going back to the American Oak for a second. Yeah, I mean, technically the 12-year-old is better, but I want to drink it less, if that makes sense. I'll give it a 78. I'll give it an extra point. But honestly, I mean, especially if this is considerably more expensive, I would just buy the American Oak. It comes across as more serious, more sort of built up. It's got some, it's been in the gym a little bit, and been doing its squats. It's not my favorite. This is getting away from the sort of Auchentoshan characteristics that I like, the freshness, the lightness, the aromatics especially. I mean, this is just not coming off, on the nose as very lively. All right, moving on to the, what is it, 3-wood? All right, this is the one that has some Pedro Jimenez in it, so I'm very terrified. But it's also the one that bottled at 43% rather than 40%. So that makes me a little excited that maybe there will be more happening on this one. It's where are we score-wise? We're like 77, 78. So this, by pattern-wise, this should be a 79, right? Okay, interesting. On the nose with the 3-wood. So, okay, we still got that core of Auchentoshan grassy bubblegum, right? That's still there. But the cask influence on this is definitely much more evident. One thing, so back up a little bit. I mean, people like to think of Auchentoshan as a lighter kind of spirit, a lighter kind of malt. But I mean, something like this, which you can tell was just buried in wood, the fact that I'm still getting the spirit, I can still tell it's Auchentoshan, tells you that this has a louder spirit character than people would think. It just has a different kind of loudness to it. All right, beyond the grassy bubblegum, I'm definitely getting a ton of black pepper, a ton of that same kind of creme brulee ash, but there's a lot of flower action going on in here. Like it smells like potpourri. More Lapsang Souchong, a little Darjeeling in there too. Yeah, very, very potpourri-like. A little apple, a little pineapple again. Not too much. It's very dominated by flowers and by that sort of grassy aspect. And a little bit of that sort of kind of dirty raisin effect that I sometimes get with Pedro Jimenez casks. And definitely some like French roast coffee, something like that, Italian roast coffee. Just really dark, serious, burned coffee. Served alongside your burned creme brulee. On the palate, Okay. Now we're starting to play. Okay, so once we have some of the problems with the 12-year, I feel like they've been playing around with the woods just too much here. It feels a little A little too overdone on the wood, but the fact that this is 43% almost saves it. It almost makes, ooh, on the nose I'm getting the sawdusty thing now. Yeah, lots actually, but sort of mixed in with that potpourri thing. On the palate again. The finish on this is really interesting. I'm not sure if I like it or hate it. Now I'm going to go with like, because, well, first of all, it's better than these two because it's not falling apart on me. You know, it's not just like disintegrating into kind of thin bitterness. Let me describe the finish a little bit. The way this arrives is it's very Auchentoshan. It's a little bit more desserty. Not desserty, Auchentoshan. A little more raisiny, put it that way. A little more cognac-y than I traditionally think of Auchentoshan as being. It's still got that grassy bubblegum kind of aspect, but you just throw a shot of cognac into that. You're getting that raisiny, caramelly thing, and the coffee aspect as well. But from there, it evolves into this kind of competition between the spirit kind of pulls back, and you're getting a competition between sawdust soaked in vanilla essence, something like that, versus a kind of ashy black peppery note, similar to what you're getting in the 12-year-old, versus this kind of dirty, filthy raisin thing. That's the Peter Jimenez, versus just kind of this general floral explosion. This is a tricky one. It is, okay, so like the 12-year-old, but more, I think this is objectively better than the American oak, but it's also still getting away from that sort of freshness of character, the freshness of the spirit. Will I score this higher? Yeah, I think I will. I will probably, there are aspects of the finish that are bothering me. I'm going to give this an 80 minus. But it still feels objectively like a step up from the 12. I would get this over the 12, no question. I don't know if it's older. It certainly has more wood on it. Auchentoshan, wood, potpourri. Ooh. Yeah, the extra 3% is doing tons and tons of favors to this. This would be nowhere without that. But if I just wanted an Auchentoshan and I was stuck with official bottlings, would I buy either of these? Especially considering the price differences, would I buy either of these over the little American oak? I don't know if I would. I mean, this is, even though I'm giving this a couple points less, this is hitting that spot for me better than the other two. And then the nose is just, it's, I love the grassy, confected character of this stuff. This is 77 points and it wins. Other two, 78, 80 minus. Yeah. Really interesting spirit. I would say wait for them to put the Valinch out again. Hope, are you listening, Bowmore? Or Suntory, whoever owns it now, bring back the Valinch, or wait for them to up the proof on these guys, or just go out and get yourself an independent bottling. That would be my recommendation with Auchentoshan. These two upper ones in the range are just a little too mannered, and in general, these could use higher strengths, and that's kind of my opinion. All right, so let's leave it at that, and AnCnoc to come soon. Thanks for watching. Hope this was useful, and cheers.